Netum Tam Word forward translation. Tasya, his, Akila, entire, Jagat, universe, Dhatu, creator, Avam, me, Devasya, of the Supreme Personality of God, Shanginaha, where's the bowl named Shanga, Pasadom, associates, Iha, now, Sampapta, approach, Netum, to take, from, you, Bhagavat Padam, to the position of the Supreme Personality of God. Translation and purport by A.C. Bhakti Swami Srila Prabhupada. We are representatives of the Supreme Personality of God, the Creator of the whole universe, who carries his hand, the bow named Sangha. We have been specially deputed to take you to the spiritual world. Now we have the purport. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that simply by knowing his transcendental pastimes, whether within this material world or in the spiritual world, anyone who understands factually who he is, how he appears, and how he acts can be merely fit for transfer to the spiritual world. This principle stated in the Bhagavad Gita operated in the case of King Dhruva. Throughout his life, he tried to understand the Supreme Personality of God by austerity and penances. Now the material result was that Dhruva Maharaj became fit to be carried to the spiritual world, accompanied by the confidential associates of the Lord. Translation again. We are representatives of the Supreme Personality of God, the Creator of the whole universe, who carries in his hand the bow called Saranga. We have been specifically deputed to take you to the spiritual world. Amakana Devandasya Sakshurami Kamina Tasmai Chaitanya Vishnu Satam Yena Bhuttam Kalam Shivu Shiyuda Pantam Shivu Vaishamasa Shivu Pamsavajatam Sakam Ragnatam Vidam Sajivam Sakretam Savruttam Parjana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sankam Krishna Hey Krishna Gona Sindhudina Bandhu Gyapate Gopesha Kopyakantara Tapta Vacha Gona Hirare Vrindamas Vishwan Sukadeve Kanama Pancha Kalpa Vishaya Shikasam Vishya Atnam Mandyo Vishnu Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radha Shivasana Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishna Buddha Vishnu Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vachani Nirvashesha Srimavani Paskachani Vedantana Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. it's amazing, this Vishnu to disappear. I'm your servant, I bring you back to the spiritual world. But I don't think many people have that experience. Anyway, that's the Maharaji had the experience, and also Ajahn had the experience. But otherwise, oh yeah. In Mirabai, Gopkumar finally, he goes to higher and higher planets in the material world, and finally he comes in the Brahmacharya. In the Brahmacharya, he arrives there, but at first the light is too blinding, he can't see him. But then he sees that full light, and suddenly he's in the Brahmacharya, and he hears Sankirtan, Harinam going on. Chant of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. And he looks to this blinding light, and suddenly he sees a bull coming. And on the bull is Sadashiva with all his followers. And God Kumar is asking Sadashiva, just for your understanding, who is Sadashiva? In the material worlds, you have Shiva in every universe. That is Shiva Tattva, little technical. We have said yesterday Krishna has 64 qualities. Krishna has 60 qualities. Shiva has 55 qualities, but it's not Krishna Tattva. But the devotee asked Srila Prabhupada about Lord Shiva. Can Lord Shiva give liberation? Prabhupada said no. That's only Krishna Tattva. But there are still 5 qualities which are unique. We don't have. Like, it's all pervading also in the material world. That's interesting. But the origin of all these Shivas in all this universe is Sadashiva. And he's in the Brahmajyoti. And he's Vishnu Tattva. It's not that his origin of all this, because that's in Bhagavad Gita, doesn't come from me. That's I learned there. So Gopkumar is in the Brahmajyoti, and he sees this bull coming, Sadashiva with all his followers, and Gopkumar felt very peaceful in the Brahmajyoti. And then suddenly this wave of Ananda comes from the Harinam. And he's asking Sadashiva, why are you doing Harinam in the Brahmajyoti? Well, Sadashiva said, it's to liberate all these impersonalists who are merged with the Brahmajyoti. So that they can become devoted and go to the spiritual world. Anytime. Anyway, Gopkumar was there for some time, and then it's very peaceful, but not really what he wanted, not only peace. So he continued, and he went to the gate of Vaikuntha, and there he sees a full-round form coming out of the gate of Vaikuntha. And he thinks this is Lord Narayana. And he starts to pray to this form. But of course, all these Vaikuntha Vasis, the male forms, they form 4 arms. And the form immediately takes 2 arms and put it on his ears. He did not want to be glorified as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, and he said, I'm not the Supreme Lord, certainly not. But they have the same form as the Supreme Lord. Liberation, that we get the same form. That, and so you get the same form. But still, there is a difference between Krishna and all the male forms in Vaikuntha and Vaikuntha. Lord Vishnu has a Shivatsha on his breast, that Lakshmi. So that's the difference. You must know, but God Kumara was not aware. Anyway, so these Vishnu Dutas coming from the spiritual world to pick up devotees who have attained perfection. And what is the effect when you see them? That on Ajamali it had a deep effect. Because they come, when one chants the holy name at the time of death, even in Namabhas, because Haridas Thakur says that Ajamil chanted Namabhas. That does not a pure name because his heart was contaminated. But he did call out the holy name without any material motive. And that's Namabhas. And by chanting Namabhas, he was free from all sinful reactions. Interesting. And this Vishnu Dutas came, and also the Yamadutas came. The Yamadutas wanted to take away the soul of Ajamil because of his past sinful activities. But the Vishnu Dutas were very strong and cut their ropes with which they tried to drag away Ajamil's soul. That's subtle ropes, you can see them. But anyway, there was a whole conversation going on. Yamaduta said it's a simple person we have to bring before Yamaraj. And then the Vishnu Dutta said, we think that you don't know the principles of religion. This person has chanted the holy name and is free from all sins. Anyway, the Yamadutas were frustrated and went to Yamaraj for an explanation. He said, we were thinking you were the great and the highest authority, but there seem to be other authorities who are frustrated. How can we do our job here if there are different authorities? And then we know that Yamaraj explains, and I'm not the highest authority. That there is a Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all religious principles are enacted, are coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he explains. But then, Ajamil, he had this near-death experience, and he sees the Vishnu Dutas, like Dhruva Maharaj did. But what is the effect of seeing them? What was the effect of this experience? He was a very simple person, and he got rid of his reactions by chanting the holy name, and he hears this conversation. That three lessons he learned from it. That or three benedictions he got. The first benediction is, if you have seen this Vishnu Dutas, they are so beautiful, so attracted like Krishna. You cannot forget them. You cannot forget Krishna anymore. That's also Maharaj Pariksit had the same experience in the womb of his mother. He saw Krishna in the form of full-round form with club whirling around to protect him. And what was the result? He got the name Pariksit. Pariksit means one who observes. He was always observing everything and thinking, was this the person I saw in the womb? Was this the person I saw in the womb? He could not forget them. So Ajahn could not forget them. That's the first benediction. The second benediction was that he heard this conversation between the Vishnudutas and the Yamadutas. He became aware of his fallen situation and of all the sinful activities that he did. The second thing he learned is he got a determination. I will never do these sinful activities anymore. And that is what we need in all of us in devotional service. That determination, I will never do these things. That material energy is very strong. We may still fall down, but still we must have the determination to never do this. And the third benediction was that his life was prolonged. He got a life extension. That he didn't have to take life extension pills. He got a benediction from the Vishnudutas. Krishna extended his life to give him the opportunity now to perform sadhana and to purify himself further. And Ajahn went also right. After he finished all his sadhana in Hardwar, Himalayas, that he became pure. So this year, seeing this Vishnudutas, first it's very rare, and the effect is very deep. So we are in the purport that Prabhupada makes a few points. He says, why did they appear before Dhruva? Because you remember the Supreme Personality of God at the end of his life. That we have this mind. This mind, if you become in a crisis situation, what is the mind going to do? It tries to take shelter where it has taken shelter from during the course of one's life. If one does not take shelter during one's life of Krishna, it will also not happen at the time of death. It is not that it have happened by chance. No. Of course, there are exceptions, that exceptional mercy of the spiritual master, exceptional mercy when you do Sankirtan, that if we do Sankirtan in full engagement, Lord Chaitanya will appear at the time of your passing away and whisper the holy name in your ears. But this is special mercy. But ordinary, no, we can see that in our lives that we have many difficulties. And Lord Queen Kunti, she prays for these difficulties because she said, if I have these difficulties, I take shelter of Krishna, and then I'm Krishna conscious. So she prayed for difficulties. In Kali-yuga, we are very fortunate. You don't have to pray for they will come on their own accord. But we should use these difficulties to take shelter of Krishna at every moment. Every day of our life, there are obstacles, there are so many things that happen. But Prabhupada writes is a mature result that Dhruva Maharaj did all these austerities and penances. He did severe austerities, Dhruva Maharaj, that he did these austerities at Dhruva Villa. We have been there, very nice, that in Vrindavan, that Vrindavan Parikram became there, Dhruva Villa. It's not so far from Vrindavan. But he did his severe austerities, but his austerities was not only the fasting, but his austerities were also that while doing these austerities, Ramuni instructed him to make a deity, and you look at the deity, he said, and you chant constantly, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. It was constantly glorifying the Supreme Personality of God. And by that his mind was fixed on the Supreme Personality of God. He was taking shelter for material reason. But that doesn't matter in the beginning. Krishna, Sukadeva said, Goswami said, Akama Savakambam Sakam. Yeah, Akama Savakambam Sakam. Shayeta Pranam. Tivrena Bhakti Yogunat. Chiveti Pranam. Prosambaram. No. Yeah. Kindness, Kodesha, Masna. No, that's not the verse. Akama Savakama Pas Savakama Vidari. Tivrena Bhakti Yogunat Chayeta Prosambaram. I have to be patient. Krishna gives me the verse. That from the heart, I have to wait a little. I'm too passionate, and I have to wait till Krishna gives me. So Akama Sarvakoma Moshikama Uji, that whether you don't have material desires, have a lot of material desires, or desire liberation, it doesn't matter. With great power, we performed Bhakti Yoga, that Charita Goshambaram to the Supreme Personality of God. So that's important for us. Whether you have material desires or not, what happens when you come in contact with Krishna? You become purified. And you will become purified from these desires. Therefore, we use the dovetailing technique. That our material desires we use in Krishna's service if it's compatible. If we have simple desires, we must stop. Then we say no, with determination, like Ajahn. No. But all the desires, you can use it in Krishna's service. Then we become purified by it. We cannot jump to the highest platform. We have our material Swadharma, our spiritual Swadharma. So our material Swadharma must be used in Krishna's service. And then becomes slowly spiritualized. And at the end, it's all spiritual. So that is the process. Austerity and penance. So the real austerity of Prabhu Maharaj was chanting Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya and worshipping the deity. That was his real austerity. What's our austerity? Chanting 16 rounds, follow the regulated principles, and engage in Prabhupada's mission. That's our austerity. Of course, we have also the Bhagavatam morning program. This is our austerity. And if we must do that austerity during our lives, day after day after day. That we have promised for the spiritual master, we have to chant every day. And if we do that every day, my Guru said, Bhakti said that if you follow the process appropriately, you are on the boat of transcendental knowledge. You only must stay on the boat. Don't jump on it. Stay on the boat. Like a rich man, the son of a rich man, to get the inheritance, what must he do? He must stay alive, that's all. We must stay alive in Krishna consciousness, whatever. And gradually we become purified. But we have to go to the austerity. So Prabhupada quotes this verse here. Chalmakamas medikam yamiveti tattvam jaktam kalachamana kamamaviti sayana. One knows me, my appearance, my activities, my pastimes. He does not take birth again in this world. Because what happens when you get to know Krishna? First question is, how do you get to know Krishna? Here in the Bhagavatam, you get to know Krishna. Verse by verse, carefully, he explains who Krishna is. The first two cantos, the second and the third canto explains the creation. So that we understand that everything in this world is connected with Krishna. Krishna is in every atom. He's the doer of everything in this world. The soul only desires. If we think that we are doing things, Krishna says, then we are Buddhas, fools, thinking ourselves the only doer in this world, but there is also another doer that is not your nature, which is under control of us. And that's explained. And then gradually we learn here about Prabhava Maharaj following the process that the fifth canto, the teachings of Vishaladev, everything clearly explained in the fifth chapter. And all clear about all the miseries in this material world, so that we lose our attraction for the material world. And then after hearing the fifth canto, we think also, what to do. We are all mercy cases. And then the sixth canto here, Ajamil, that Ajamil, how Ajamil then attain perfection by the chanting of the holy name, the power of the holy name. And then we hear about the role model of pure devotion, Prahlad Maharaj, and the pose of Bhagavad Dharma, but then in the second part of the seventh canto, then after hearing this pastime, Narada Muni says, Prahlad Maharaj is very fortunate, but how can we get this fortune? And Narada Muni said, you are much more fortunate than Prahlad Maharaj, because Lord Krishna is visiting your palace, is your servant, is your friend, and so on. But you should organize society as such, according to the Varnashram system, that's indirect causes of Krishna consciousness, because then the entire population goes in the right direction. But yes, but then after Parnashyan is not sufficient, then you must surrender. 8th canto, Bali Maharaj, how to surrender to the Supreme Lord. So gradually we learn about surrender, the chant of the name of pure devotee, a pure devotee like Prahlad Maharaj, and then we come up with 10th canto. It is said if we hear the Bhagavatam verse after verse after verse, at the end of the 9th canto, we must be nearly liberated. And then you can hear the 10th canto. Because that's important. The 10th canto, that my flagship say, Nivita Dasya Priyamana, Papastak, Skochka, Monobhiranat. So, yes, we are in the 10th canto, but during the 10th canto, my flagship, Nivita Dasya, you must be free from lust to understand. And to become free, Nivita Dasya, Upahiyamana, just to become free from lust, Papal Sadak, you must take a medicine. Papal Sadak, Shotva, Manobhirama. But Shotva means hearing. Hearing of Manobhirama is absorbing the mind in the pastimes of Krishna in the Bhagavatam. So that's the medicine to get free from this lust. And we must take that medicine before coming to the 10th canto. So I was in Koblevo in the Ukraine, the last festival we had, or the second last. Gerald Bakermax was also there, and he gave a clap on that verse. And the devotee asked the question of the end and said, but I'm taking the medicine, but I'm not free from lust after such a long time. And Charles Baker Maharaj said, increase the dose of the medicine. Then you have to increase the dose. Anyway, I'm just giving you that advice from Charles Baker Maharaj that if you have that problem, I'm not the only one with that problem. And then you have the 10th canto. So that is a process of the Bhagavatam. That process is called, Prabhava Maharaj. This is called Bhagavad Vidhi. Bhagavad Vidhi is because you have 9 angles of devotional service, Shravana, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Pada, Sekhnam, Archanam, Bhavanam, Dasyam, Satyam, Atmani, Vikram. The first three is hearing about Krishna, speaking about Krishna, and remembering about Krishna. And that's the Bhagavatam. And that's an easy process that if we want to learn in the first class easily, then we hear the Bhagavatam and become attracted to it. And if you become attracted to Krishna or attracted to the Bhagavatam, it's the same. But best to hear the Bhagavatam explains by the person Bhagavatam. So Srila Prabhupada explains in this verse of Nasveta Bhakti Bhagavata Sevya. He said there are 2 Bhagavatas. There is the person Bhagavat and the book Bhagavat. And you have to learn the book Bhagavat from the person Bhagavat. So Hari Sauri, he gave a seminar for many years. Now he cannot do it anymore. But he gave a seminar on the living Bhagavad, Srila Prabhupada, living Bhagavad. And that is our great fortune that we have Prabhupada who is writing this purport here. And this purpose helps us to understand how the importance, if we want to meet these Vishnu Duttas, then we must think of Krishna during our lives and come attracted and take shelter and do this austerity and penance. Because that's explained in 551 by King Shabbat, that one should not be interested in the happiness of this world, which is available for hogs and dogs, but one should perform divine austerities, the divine austerity of devotional service, and then one will get unending happiness. So that's also said by Nagramani to Shalabiansky. One should not seek for the happiness which is available in this world, but one should seek for, because this material happiness, it comes on its own accord. Like distress comes on its own accord. Nobody wants distress, but it still comes. So in the same way, happiness will come. One should not seek for that. But one should seek for that happiness which is not available from the lowest to the highest planet. And this is spiritual happiness. This happiness on this world, in this world, when you take birth, it's predestined. That it's predestined. Astrologers calculate one's karma. And that's your happiness in this first lifetime. Better not to go to too much in it, you become depressed. so much distress that because yes, and that is in this world like that. Not only for individuals, also countries have their collective karma. I looked once at the astrological chart of the Ukraine. Just that better to go for the real thing, the happiness of the soul, not the happiness of the body. Of course, we are so attracted to the body. Therefore, Krishna gives us prasad. We can take prasad and become purified. That's the only sense and enjoyment really that the devotees have, prasad. So my Guru Maharaj always said prasad must always be first class, because that's the only, but it's purifying us. So we must lead a life of purification, develop godly qualities. And if we become more and more advancement, we become abide. We become fearless in this world. But first, sattva samsara, we must purify our existence. Bhakti said the yogi lives only for purification of his existence in the future. And that should be our activity. Engage in devotional service for purification. And the more you become purified, the less you suffer. So purification is important. Sometimes devotees suffer, but they suffer and they will learn from the suffering. Because suffering is a lesson that Krishna gives us out of love. That difficult to understand, but he gives it out of love. He doesn't want us to suffer in this world. And if a devotee suffers, he learns from that. I must become serious in my spiritual life. So suffering is for the rectification of the spirit of the conditioned soul. That's why suffering is there. And a devotee becomes rectified. But the materialistic people, they just suffer. That's all. There's no purification. That they don't become wise, really. Some superficial realization is there, but no deep realization. But the devotee suffers to never suffer again. It's completely different. But even if a devotee is completely purified, Krishna may still give some suffering. Why is that? Why? Because as a vaccine, then we don't become attracted again. You remember, yes, this place is amazing, the place of misery. But Krishna can also give suffering for other reasons. That the Pandavas were suffering. But that Krishna, that was Krishna's lila, to give an example for us. But they didn't really suffer because they were on the transcendental platform. Because when you're always Krishna conscious, whether you are in hell or in heaven or in Vaikuntha, it doesn't matter. The devotee is always in transcendental bliss. Because the suffering is experienced in the mind. That we are not the mind. Once you don't identify in the mind, you are out of it. Anyway, I think I should stop talking. Any question?
Thanks for wonderful class, Maharaj. I wanted to ask about prasad. Generally, you said in one class in UFM that regularly teach, but sometimes prasad, in the name of prasad, we eat too much. Maybe so how to think, Maharaj? Because our consciousness might not be like, oh, this is prasad, that is why I'm eating it. Like not the gratitude. So it might affect us. So how?
Yeah, for prasad and controlling the sense, there are two things here. And that first, in the beginning, our path, he knew prasad is a secret weapon to attract everyone. And he encouraged the devotees to eat more and more, to even you can fill up till here. and the devotees in the beginning, the Sunday feast was a mountain on their plate, and then they went for seconds. But yes, that interesting is this body is made of, factory is made of food, transformation of food is body. And every cell is changed of your body every 6 years, plus more or less. So if you, during 6 years, you eat only Krishna prasad, your body becomes Krishna prasad. But you're only doing that, then control of the senses becomes more easy. But still, there is a danger. In the beginning, Prabhupada said, but later he said, you must live more austere. It's very clearly in Bhagavad Gita and in Nectar of Devotion A devotee eats virtually just what he needs to keep body and soul together. And that's really what we need. Not eating out of lust, eating what you need. That Rupa Goswami said, eat prasad, well, eating prasad will help you to control the senses. But you can eat prasad, but not too much, because then still you will get uncontrolled senses. So we must regulate that, and that's very important, especially when you get older. When you get older, you have to eat less because the body, the capacity of digesting is not so great anymore. You need to adapt that. So yes, but mostly, most people and also devotees mostly eat too much. That Prabhupada said it's better to eat a little too less than too much. But it takes a while. But if you eat too much, you suffer. One way or another, either in the form of disease or other forms. But in the beginning, the devotees from America went to India, to Mayapur in the 70s. At that time, there were no bottles of water, plastic bottles was not existing. So they had to drink the water from locally, and all these bacteria, they became sick and so on, diarrhea, but there was one devotee who never became sick. That's Bhanu Maharaj. And Prabhupada said, that's an exemplary brahmachari. He just eats what needed, and therefore he remained always healthy. But anyway, it's nice to speak about that from the Vyasa-san, but you must also be able to apply it. And mostly it's a lifetime mission to rectify it to the right amount, because it's finding balance. We cannot go to the extreme. That balance is important. Krishna speaks about that balance also. And that's for everyone different. But controlling the senses will only happen if you are fully Krishna conscious. As long as you are not fully Krishna conscious, it's always a question of problem and possibility of fall down regularly. That unless we become fully Krishna conscious. Does that help them? Okay, good. I think we will stop here. Time for prasadam. Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah. Yeah.